welcome back to Earth and Star Spiritual Wellness Center. Today I want to talk about religious wounds, and we have a little message coming through from a special spirit friend. I want to start by jumping right in and saying, religious wounds do not exist. I feel it. I feel the trigger. I feel the backlash. But here's the thing. Okay? Spirit has been yelling at me about this for days. At least 3 days I've been having to hear this. So now you're going to have to hear it, honey, okay? Religious wounds aren't real. Hear me out. When you struggle with a religious wound, what you are actually struggling with is a mommy or daddy wound, a rejection wound, a not good enough wound, a lack of safety wound, and a lack of self-trust wound. So here's what I've come to from all of this yelling, because I've been with you this whole time, right? I've been through all of that. I've been through the stepping into my spirituality and how that has made me feel rejected from the common religions, how it has made me on the outside or feel judged, right? Even though I do have my own belief system where I feel like it fits in. And I've watched so many other people go through this as well, even to the point where we're separating spirituality from religion and saying it's not the same thing. And I've done this. And then Spirit's been punching me in the face saying, correct it, and here's what needs to be corrected. So while we are on the outside, and I say we because if you're on this channel, there's probably a lot of things you believe in that the church you grew up in doesn't believe in. And that's why we're here. On that outside, what I keep being told is that it's just that we were squeezed out of this one little room or this one little tube, but that doesn't mean that the things are separate. Our own rejection of that is what makes us separate. So then this becomes a lack of self-trust, a self-rejection, because there is not a difference between religion and spirituality within the balance in the yin-yang. Continue to listen. Please come with me on this ride. So as we learned in the past about masculine and feminine energies, right? We have masculine and feminine inside of ourselves, whether or not we express as masculine or feminine. But the masculine and feminine can never truly be completely separated. So we've likened this to a garden and a gardener, right? Where the garden is the beauty and the wildness, and the gardener is the one who observes and tends. But there is feminine in the gardener as well, because the gardener also expresses and cycles. And then the garden itself also observes and protects. A rose, which we can liken to being feminine, also has thorns, which is its masculine nature. So while we conceptually separate the masculine from the feminine in order to study it and further understand it, it can never, at its core bones, be stripped down to two separate things. They are simply one balanced thing. Just as you and I cannot be truly torn apart into a masculine or a feminine energy, we are one being. The same is true for spirituality and religion. Spirituality is your individual exploration of yourself, of what you believe, of what allows you to connect to something bigger. It's your individual exploration of connecting to source, connecting to spirit, and what you feel you believe. Religion is once you believe something. Religion is allowing yourself to say, okay, this is what I believe now. This is a concept I believe in. It's also placing importance on certain aspects of your beliefs. So if your beliefs revolve around source, spirit, God, angels, ancestors, whatever is the important spirit thing, your higher self, your spirit guides, you have religion. Religion is also the action of your spirituality. It is how you practice. It is your spiritual practice. So your morning meditations, your dances and music worship, however it is that you practice through ritual, through ceremony, that is your religion, honey. So they are not separated. What you explore within yourself becomes how you practice. So religion is really kind of based around the action of your beliefs as well as community to a certain extent. When we think of religion, we also think of community, how we end up making connections with other like-minded people. So a lot of you on this channel have made connections with each other through our events, through our, when you go to our retreats. You've come together through certain groups that we have on here, or just through attending lives or seeing each other in the comments. You have created a group, and the whole point of Earth and Star is to create a safe community where people of any belief can come in and feel safe. And so when you do that, you have found a space where you are allowed to be religious in the way that you believe spiritually. They are one and the same. This is one body. It goes together. But when we're in our rejected mind, thinking that we don't fit in with certain religious sects, with certain denominations, with certain belief systems, that's when we get upset and we say, oh, well, that's just religious and I don't believe in religious dogma. Yes, you don't believe in that religious dogma. There are a million different denominations, a million different sects out there, a million different ways that different people believe. And you fit in somewhere, I promise. Even if it's so amorphic that you don't know where you fit yet. You fit here. And you can be religious here during your spiritual space. This is the line that Spirit dropped in my head last night. Religion changes as your spirituality progresses. Religion changes as your spirituality progresses. What this allows, what it introduces, is for us to be able to accept other people's beliefs for how they are, even if we don't believe them, even if we find them to be small, even if we find them to just not be in alignment with something that we feels good. But we can respect that those people feel safe in those beliefs. And that's all we really want. We want to feel safe. We want to feel good in what we believe in and know that we are supported in those beliefs. So that's good that these people have found that in what they believe. And we probably found support there until we believed something different, until our spirituality progressed. And now that our spirituality has progressed, we are finding a new way to practice, a new way to be in a community, a new way to look at what we hold as important. And so we're the ones who are changing and evolving and looking for a new space. So when we look at it from that point of view, in the subconscious realms, that's a matter of self-rejection if we keep holding resentment towards those groups. I know what you're over there saying, well, they did it to me, and they did this, and they did this. Yes, so let's back up a little bit, okay? Remember I said that this is probably a mommy-daddy wound or a self-trust wound, and then in here there's also rejection and not feeling safe and not good enough. That's really what we're struggling with when we have religious trauma or religious wounds. It's not really about God. It never is. On one hand, we have adults who have gone into churches, who have gone into the belief of certain things, even into what we would consider spirituality without the religion, because remember, we've separated that in our society today so that more people feel that they fit in. But we're bringing it back together. That's the point of this. Spirit wants us to bring those terms back together so that spiritual people can still have religion, and so that religious people can still progress spiritually. They are not separate. We have to quit the separation. It's just not possible. And I will say that is the wisest thing I think that my teacher ever taught me. 15 years ago, a long time ago, when I was first struggling with this wound, because there were people in my little southern hometown who were like, oh, a witch lives there. And I was struggling with this a little bit, like not like, oh, woe is me, but like I was mad. They don't know me or what I believe. And a lot of people asked me questions, and I didn't want to be questioned about my personal belief system. And she said, and I said something similar, well, I just don't believe in religion. I'm just spiritual then. And it was my way of defining me, because I didn't know how to define me when I was rejected by them. And she said, you're still religious too. And I was like, no, I'm not. I don't know what that means. And I still didn't know what that what that meant, until Spirit's been hammering this into my head lately. You know, religious wounds have been coming up lately, and now Spirit's throwing the smoke bomb, exploding us. It's an atomic bomb. And here we are. So those people who have gone in as adults, or who have created their spirituality, or who have created their religion for themselves, when things don't go their way, or they become ill, or things like that, sometimes they then blame God, or how they see God, source, spirit. And this becomes a self-trust wound, because if we truly believe that we came from source, if we truly believe that we have set up and aligned for ourselves the experiences that we're going to have in this life because we have free will, if we truly believe that our thoughts and our actions dictate our trajectories on our timeline, then we can't blame God truly. We're really blaming our God selves. We're blaming ourselves. And this becomes an inner rejection, a self-rejection, a self-separation. And so we need to simply empower ourselves into that space and work through the beauty of life, the beauty of everything that we go through, whether it's perceived as positive or negative, whether it's easy or difficult. It's all part of the human experience. And how we move through it is what defines us. How we continue to love, how we continue to show up, how we continue to feel however we feel at any given time and still love ourselves is what defines those moments, empowers us, and changes our trajectory moving forward. For everyone else, this starts with mom and dad, usually. So, children who have adults who had religious trauma as a child, this is mommy and daddy's fault. So you're eventually going to be working through mommy, daddy forgiveness and mommy and daddy wounds, right? And here's the 3 mistakes that parents make, not churches. This is still, remember, this isn't God's fault. It's self-rejection. This isn't the church's fault. This is mommy and daddy's fault. Keep listening. Keep rolling, please. The number 1 mistake the parents make when they bring their children up in their faith, meaning they're bringing their children up through the church that they believe in, the church that they go to. And this isn't wrong. We all want to bring our children up according to what we feel like is ethical, according to what our ancestry believes in. So it's not wrong to bring your children up in church. Certainly not. The mistakes that we make as parents bringing our children up in church, number 1, is that we believe everything that the teachers say is true. And we teach our children to believe everything that the teachers say. Okay. In the children's church, most of the time, these teachers are babysitters who are teaching Bible verses, meaning they may not actually have a deep understanding and personal relationship with what they are teaching. They could simply be teaching things that on a very surface level have been repeated, and that's the dogma part. So they could just be repeating anything, and they also have their own wounds, the things that they're struggling with through their own lives. So what they could be instilling into your child is a set of guilt, shame, negativity type of belief systems. And if you teach your children that everything that the teachers say are true and that they need to listen to them, then your child automatically doesn't have a choice in how they believe. They are immediately set with a bunch of heavy rules down upon them that eventually will cause guilt, shame, and self-rejection. Not good enough type of wounds. We need to be able to question what's happening, to see how it aligns with us, how those things fit with us, even as children. If something feels scary, if something feels not kind or unloving, why do we want our children to believe that that's true for them? They get to decide too. Teachers aren't all-knowing. Even if they spent 6 years in college learning this stuff, it doesn't mean that how they're teaching it aligns with what your child wants to believe or will eventually believe. For instance, I have mentioned before in past videos that I believe just about everything in the Bible, but I believe it from a different point of view, meaning that I believe some of the verses from a completely different perspective, that they might not even be talking about the things that we're taught that they're talking about. I also believe some of these could be metaphorical. I believe that Jesus loved to teach through parable and metaphors because then it can be interpreted in many different ways that apply to many different situations and help us grow. I believe some of what's in there is political. I believe that some of what's in there is true for the time, but times change. And it's actually an amazing book to sustain time, considering all things, but that doesn't mean that everything is exactly true for right now. It doesn't mean that things don't continue to grow and evolve. It doesn't mean that we should stone people or have 17 wives. I'd be fine with 1 or 2, but like that can be a lot, you know, and then my wives would want wives and then I'd have to Old Testament them, you know what I mean? So there's a lot there that I think we should all be able to take how we feel, believe how we believe, not according to how a teacher believes and how they're teaching us. A really good teacher will give you the core of something, what it's really trying to give you underneath it all, and allow you to interpret it, allow you to fit it into your own energy field, into your own belief system, however it fits, and make it your own and go forward with it so that you grow through it, rather than trying to stuff yourself inside of it and see how you fit within a belief. The belief fits and grows you. The second mistake that parents make when they are bringing their kids up in church is they think that everybody in the church is good and safe. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Nobody in any group of people anywhere is completely good and safe. And when we bring our kids to church, we're like, oh, we take a deep breath, right? Because we're in our safe space. We're in a space that feels good for us. As adults, we're like, okay, I can breathe now. I'm not at work. I'm not out there in the world where everyone's yelling and screaming at me. We're in a place where people are kind to me, where people are loving towards me, where they want to pray over me, they want to support me, they want to help me. and your kids are running around this church, or they're being watched by other people. And I tell you what, it's not church, it's everywhere. It is everywhere. And remember that church is religion. It's a religious space, because that community aspect and how you practice is what's considered religion, which is why religion is blamed so often for when bad things happen in church. There are people there who do not have everyone's best interest at heart. Same as at the grocery store, same as anywhere else, okay? I have personally met some very nice people in church. I have been followed into the parking lot by an old man who tried to proposition me at church. Like, there's been a lot that can happen in that space. And you have to watch your babies. You can't just let them go to anybody. You can't just let other people watch them in the nurseries and in the children's church sometimes. There's a certain level of your own intuitive abilities, of trust, and of watch that you have to give. You can't just walk into a group of people and expect everyone to care about your child the way that you do, number one, because they don't always care about your child the way that you do, or not expect at least one person in that crowd to be struggling with something that could eventually turn nefarious. Almost all of the unsafe church wounds that I have seen in clients has been with children who are in a small group or somewhere in a back room with an adult, with a preacher, with a teacher, with somebody who's supposed to be watching over them, who takes advantage of the situation. This is a mommy-daddy mistake, not a religious mistake, because you would not leave your child with a stranger at the grocery store. You would not leave your child with a stranger at the mall. You would not leave your child with a stranger in any of these other public places, but we do in church. And that's the difference. Now, I will say there's lots of great people out there. You know, I've seen a great team of people at church. I've actually went to a concert one time where there was a great team of people watching a child who was moving through the mosh pits. And as soon as he went to the mosh pit, there was adults all around watching to make sure he didn't get hurt, knowing who his parent was and how he was going to get back, opening the crowd so he could move through. And everyone was watching over this child, but they were watching over this child because they knew that in a crowd like this, anything could happen. They weren't watching over this child because they cared about the child the way the parent did. They were watching over that child because they knew this isn't a particularly safe situation. Let's make sure it stays safe. And this is the kind of group that you want. But that's not the church's fault. That's mommy and daddy's fault. Number 3, the third mistake that parents make in religious situations is that they keep going. And this also applies to adults, not just the children who grew up, but to the adults. They keep going to that church, even when the concepts don't align for them anymore. When what was once good begins to feel bad. And this goes back to what we were just talking about that quote that I was given, how religion changes as spirituality progresses. When you first start a church, maybe it feels really good for you. Maybe you feel supported and loved and everyone's being really nice. This has happened to me when I was in military towns, and you're just looking for something. You're looking to be fed, and you show up and everyone's feeding you, and it feels really good. But then you sit down and listen to the message, and the pastor starts blaming you for wearing a bikini at the beach, and this is why men are having unclean thoughts, and SA happens. And then you're like, oh, I feel like someone just stuck their fingers down my throat and made me vomit up everything I had just been fed. Why would you continue to go to a place like that when you know that your beliefs on a core level don't align with the beliefs in that space? Well, because I was fed, I was supported, I had friends, and then someone made you vomit it all up. We cannot compromise ourselves, okay? If something feels good and then it stops feeling good, all right, let your feminism rise up, right? If it stops feeling good, you get to say no. and you get to move on, right? We don't have to blame that church. We do not have to blame God. We do not have to blame religion. What we get to do is simply move on. That space isn't really for us anymore. I'm glad that I had support while I needed it, and now I'm going to move on and find a different place. The Baptists may make you feel really good for a while, and when it doesn't anymore, maybe you move on to Presbyterian. And if Presbyterian doesn't quite fit the bill anymore as your spirituality continues to progress, maybe you go to the Universalist Unitarians. Maybe their beliefs are more in line. Maybe you create your own thing. Maybe you come to a space like this where there's so much that fits in, and you fit in, and you belong here. The point is that you don't have to hold resentments. You don't have to hold rejection over an entire spiritual space or religious space because we don't fit there or because something bad happened there. What we need to address is our lack of self-trust, our low self-worth, our lack of safety, and our rejection. Even that blame mommy and daddy thing, that's all going to filter down into these two. Because once you realize it's not the religion, it's not the church, it's mom and dad and how they raised us into this, then you have to let that go too. Sorry guys, you gotta let it go. You can't blame mom and dad forever. Trust me, you can try, but it's not gonna do you any good. Blaming mom and dad forever is only going to keep the resentment, and you're never gonna heal through it. So eventually that trickles down into these things. And what you really need to work on then is feeling safe, healing those wounds of not feeling safe, of not being protected, healing those wounds of, I am good enough, I am worthy, I am allowed to explore and allow my spirituality to progress, and then you'll find new places. The only places in the world where there are not actually like religion is probably if you're agnostic and you just don't hold anything as special. Because remember, the religion aspect is when you put importance on a certain thing. So if you place importance on Jesus, source, energy, spirit guides, all of that is religious. Unless you're agnostic and you don't really believe anything exists. It could, but I don't place an importance on any of that. It could not. So these are the things that Spirit really wants us to know at this time, because this is creating a rift collectively. It's not something I feel like I've personally seen. This is something that's coming straight from source energy. Source energy is telling me there's a rift right now that needs to be healed, and this is what it is. We need to bring together spirituality and religion again so that people stop seeing religion as a bad word or spirituality as a bad word, depending on which side you're on. Religious people need to see spirituality as part of how they grow, and spiritual people need to see religion as a piece of how they practice and how they can gain community, so that they're not constantly feeling in rejection or on the outside or as the black sheep. We need to bring these things together again so that we know that we can still have a community, so that we can still build our cosmology and what we believe. So how do we heal this? How do we heal these things? The first way that we're going to heal these things is through cosmology. Figuring out what we do believe. If we have this religious wound, like I said, which is really just lack of safety, low self-worth, figure out, what do you believe? Allow yourself to explore that. What do I believe? What feels kind? What feels loving? What makes me feel better as a person? Does it make me feel better as a person to think that this is my one and only life? Or does it make me feel better as a person to feel that I have multiple lives, that this keeps going? There's lots of concepts that we can explore within ourselves, and we get to decide what we believe. And we don't have to believe it forever. If we decide we believe something now and a year from now that changes, great. Our spirituality is progressing and our religion gets to follow that. We're supposed to continue progressing. We're supposed to constantly be changing our beliefs as we experience more of life. This is normal. So the first part of healing your religious wound is figuring out your cosmology. What do you believe right now? What makes you feel better as a person? What feels good, kind, and loving to you? The second thing, the second way to heal this wound is to seek the truth. In a world of change, let people change and feel where the stability is. In religious wounds, there's so much of, well, that's not true. Well, that's not true. This is the truth. There's the one truth. This is the one true God, the one true thing. So when we seek the truth, that's not off base. First, I'm going to start by saying that. That's not off base, because we're all seeking the truth. That's the stability. The truth is the thing that ties us all together as humans, that ties us all living beings together, that ties the entire universe together, is the truth. But what is the truth? The truth, are you ready? I don't know how else to describe that. It's the energy that moves through all things. That is the only true thing. Everything else is how we perceive it and how we believe it. For some, this is the source, the God spark that's within all of us. But that's not true to everybody, because some people believe that plants or animals don't have that God spark, and that separates humans from everyone else. For some people, it's the breath, what animates us. And there's the whole story of Yahweh and how it's actually pronounced, which is the breath. There's a lot to this, but it's source energy. It's just energy. It's the flow of all of life, because this is just our shell. This is not who we are. And I think that's probably one thing that we can all agree on, is that we believe in something more than ourselves. We believe that this human isn't who we are, that it's our machine. And we're driving the machine, the true us, our spirit, our soul. But this, whatever you choose to call it, because some people don't believe that animals and plants have souls, it's the energy that connects everything to everything. It connects the earth and the rocks to the plants and the trees, to the people, to the animals, to the skies. It connects everything. There's a single vibration. There's a single breath that flows between all things, that brings us all together. That is the truth. However you believe in that, that is what your soul is actually seeking, the understanding that we're all one, the unity. So seek the truth. Number 3, the third way to heal a religious wound: let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. All guilt, all shame, all rejection, all embarrassment, all blame. Let it be done. Let it go. Let it be done so that it doesn't keep you from wholeness, from the wholeness of what spirituality and your spiritual practice could be. Notice how I said your spirituality and your spiritual practice? What I said was so it doesn't keep you from the wholeness of what your spirituality and your religion could be. You have to let it go, honey. The things that hurt you in the past, we have to work through those so that we can bring it back together. This is going to be the thing that heals the world, that heals the rift. We think that it's right against left, that it's politics, that it's all of these things. It's not. It's what's inside of us and what we believe and how we practice, and the thinking that we're separate because we think that this is bad and they think that this is bad. When we hold on to that resentment and that blame and those negative feelings, it's keeping us from the wholeness of what our spirituality and our spiritual practice could be. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be held back. I don't want to be held back from everything that my spirituality and spiritual practice could be. I want to do whatever I want to do. I want to believe however I want to believe. I want to love however I love. And that's okay for me to do that and for you to do that, because I know that we're connected, because that's the only true thing there is. The only truth we can seek is that there's a single that moves through us all, that moves through you and me. Religion changes as spirituality progresses. And on all of this, I definitely would like to read a Bible verse, okay? So today I'm going to read you Isaiah 43:18 through 19. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Do you not see it? Do you not feel it? Do you not know it? Do you not hear it? Can you not use all of your subtle senses to perceive the new thing, the newness that's popping up? The Bible verses say, stop looking to the past for your answers. The Bible verses say, stop dwelling on the past. Stop dwelling on your religious wounds. Stop dwelling on your mommy and daddy issues. Stop holding resentment. Stop holding blame. This is more than just your wounds. And your wounds, they have a place. They're absolutely valid. They are absolutely valid. But you gotta heal them. You have to learn how to heal them. However long that takes, a week, a month, 10 years, but be actively working on that healing process. Because the more resentment we hold and the more we blame other people or religion, it's keeping you in that state of separation. And I've seen this firsthand, how spiritual people who think that they're not religious blame religious people for their rejection. And while I've been there and I've seen it and I can continue to see it, who's that hurting, honey? You. It's hurting you to believe that way. It's hurting you. It's keeping you from having that community. It's keeping you on the outside. It's keeping you the black sheep. It's keeping you feeling rejected. So let's work on that part. Let's not blame anymore. Let's not hold that resentment anymore. The world is changing. The world is new. The world needs this unity, that wholeness, that oneness. Everything is becoming brand new. We can feel it in our bones, and we need to be a part of bringing that rift together. This is what we're supposed to be doing right now. The words just came to me, Lion of Judah. And that feels powerful, and it feels like a force. It feels like confidence. It feels like fire. And this feels like part of communication. So, last month we had Mercury retrograde through Lionsgate, which might be where Lion of Judah is coming from. Mercury is the planet of communication, meaning that anything that came up for you during that Mercury retrograde was probably teaching you how to communicate with others, or maybe where communication has been broken down between you and others, or maybe where a veil's been stripped away and you're finally able to see what's actually happening in your relationship with other people. But this is about being able to speak something. And with the Lion of Judah energy, this also feels like your confidence, your ability to speak and be who you are, to speak what you believe, to have a place, to hold a place, to be big, not to black sheep it around in a circle over and over again wandering the woods, but to be the lion. the Lion of Judah, not a lion who eats other people or mauls and maims them through your own resentment, but someone who can be strong, who can be confident, who can hold a community space, who can accept other people who have different beliefs also. We really like to talk about how religious people don't accept people who have different beliefs, but do you? Do we? And can we put that into practice without resentment and without anger? Can we accept people of different beliefs without being angry at them or resenting them or feeling rejected in ourselves? I hope so. I hope we can at least start working towards it, because that's what's going to change everything. Giving respect is how we get it. Being the person to step forward in that, being the person to advocate for that, being the person to push that. That's the person who's going to start change. Change doesn't happen when two sides are resenting each other and blaming the other. Change happens when one says, come on, I'll show you how we can do this together, because we are connected. It's also not the person. Change does not happen when we rise up and then we say, your way is wrong, so we're going to do it this way. La. This is a loving way. Let me show you how to do it so we can do it together. This is how this happens. So the Jesus wound isn't real, doesn't exist. The religious wound isn't really there. And I've told you the 3 mistakes that parents of children who are growing up in church make, which probably have caused a lot of your religious wounds, or that adults make around blaming God, which has caused their own self-rejections and their own lack of self-trust. We've talked about how those rejections and low self-worths can be healed, and we do that through deciding what our own cosmology is, through seeking the truth and the unity, that common thread between all of us, even in a world of change and so many different belief systems. That's the common thread that holds us all together. And we've talked about letting go, being able to release our blame and our resentments in order to fully take on our own full practice, what we believe and how we believe it, how we practice it. I promised you a little message from the spirits. So I was working, and it became abundantly clear to me that people who work with spirits tap in, right? Psychics, seers, mediums, healers, we tap in to certain energies, to certain archetypes, to certain ancestors, to certain spirits for answers as we move through things. Sometimes for energy healing, sometimes we do it just because we want to communicate and figure some things out. Maybe we're just tapping into random spirits because we want to communicate and see what things are like on the other side. Well, I was in session and a spirit showed me how this can be exhausting sometimes, and how sometimes we could be tapping into things against their will. So they wanted everyone to know that. They said this is something we needed to actively speak. That when you are thinking of a certain spirit, a certain ancestor, or a certain archetypal energy, such as God, Goddess, what we are doing is when we try to tap into it, we're drawing it to us. And when we do that, we should also ask the spirit for their permission to communicate with them. We don't often do that. We ask permission to tap into other people when we're working with them. We ask permission for other people to tap into, their spirits and their spirit guides, but we don't ever ask the spirits or the spirit guides for their permission to tap into them, right? They are also spirits. They are part of this oneness. We need to treat spirits and spirit guides and archetypes as if they were also one of us. Just because they live on the other side and they're invisible to us doesn't mean that they don't also have energy that we're pulling, that we're tapping into, that we're taking. So that became abundantly clear to me. And I realized These spirits need to be treated with respect, with honor. These spirits are also our clients. They're also our friends. They're part of this oneness. And when we tap into them, we should also ask them, do you want to work with me on this? Can I ask you some questions? Are you okay with this? And is there anything that you need? Do you need some healing? Do you need a little bit of support and some love? And maybe they need some guidance, especially if it's a soul or an ancestor, So there's two sides to every coin, and they just wanted to make that known, especially for people who have the large gift of being a psychic or a seer. If you're continuously tapping into a certain soul, especially a famous person, you can think of people who everybody knows, JFK, Frank Sinatra, Marilyn Monroe. Like, if you're constantly as a psychic tapping into these people just because it's interesting to you, think about what's happening to that energy or to the soul of that particular person, especially if we're not asking permission, but we're just trying to feed on the information that we're getting. If we're trying to feed on their existence or their former existence, we're taking from them rather than working with them. If there's someone on the other side we're working with, it should be a symbiotic relationship. They have chosen to work with us, not us just tapping into their energy and feeding on it. We want to be able to be their friends, to get information, but to also offer them support if they need it, giving them a friend or someone to talk to before closing the veil and sending them back over. So if you guys have any other questions about anything we talked about today, please drop a comment, let me know. I'd love to further elaborate on any of these topics. But these were just the things that were hard hitting over the past few days that needed to come out. And I hope that they carry you through the month beautifully. We've talked a lot today about a lot of things that we might need some time processing and working through. Today's Eisteddfod is Just Be by Nevada Smith, and you know her well by now. So just be present with this song. Bring all of your thoughts and all of your energies back to the self. Let yourself get quiet and just enjoy this beautiful vibration.
So natural in its existential beauty. Why are we so different? Feeling undeserving. It's just the beginning. Just be in it. It's just the beginning. Simulating similarities across this universe. Appreciating synchronicities across this similarities across this universe. Appreciating synchronicities across this earth. I recognize the power of shining light on your shadows to come alive and unite among this rebirth, among this rebirth, among this rebirth. There's a part in here where we read this story to each other and we come alive. I can feel it. Can you feel it? If you close your eyes, touch the surface of a whole new surprise and enter the gift of this life. Lost in a train of thought, I've been contemplating all that I thought life was. I didn't know there was more than doing. What does it mean to just be? Even nothing sits on your tongue as something